President Trump is headed to North Dakota today. The Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library will open to the public on Saturday, and this afternoon the president will participate in the ribbon-cutting ceremony in North Dakota. All living past presidents received invites to the ceremony, which will honor Roosevelt's life and conservation efforts. I want to bring in former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota. She is also the founder and president of One Country Project, and she's a CNBC contributor. Senator, I'm so glad you're with us specifically on this day. I want to talk about North Dakota because inflation is rising, gas prices are up, diesel prices are obviously up, affordability remains a top issue for voters. What are you hearing from people in North Dakota about the president and the state of the country right now?
Well, first to set the stage, Stephanie, North Dakota gave Donald Trump one of the highest percentage votes of any state in the union, I think, behind Wyoming and maybe West Virginia and Oklahoma. There's North Dakota. And so incredibly popular politically here. But guess what? People have gone pretty quiet. People who used to be wearing the red hats, they're not wearing those red hats that much anymore. And they're not singing the praises because the policies have been devastating for American agriculture, both coming and going, whether it is increased input costs that you've just outlined or whether it is losing markets perhaps forever and wondering what that's going to look like. And then you look at the single largest employer, people don't realize this, in rural America is healthcare. And rural healthcare is in crisis. And these are all policy-driven decisions by the administration. And the question is, when does that translate to a vote that changes? And I think we're going to see that transition first, I think, in Iowa. That's been hit particularly hard.
I want to stay on agriculture because last week the president asked Congress to approve $11 billion in funding, mostly to help farmers during the Iran war. Here's the thing. The president is successful, or has been in the past, of putting together farm aid bills, but they're specifically in need because of his policies. So how does the North Dakota farmer feel about that, right? They want or need that aid. They want the money, but they also know the reason it's been caused is his policies.
Well, I think that, like anyone, they aren't going to turn it down because they're desperate. And we're seeing record bankruptcies. We're seeing people not being able to get operating loans. But you have to remember the bulk of that money goes to very wealthy people, goes to large farmers who have new pickups, who have lake homes, who have a home in Arizona. And the rest of the community looks and says, when do we get ours? And so it's a complicated picture. And, you know, on top of this, Stephanie, what we also have is some real weather challenges. We have drought across the country. We're seeing record storms, hails. I mean, you know, so the typical risk that farmers experience, that agriculture experiences from weather is now exacerbated by bad policy. And so when, you know, I think that farmers are smart enough to know that that isn't always going to be there, that $11 billion, and that if you really want to survive in farming, you get to get back to fundamentals, which is lowering costs and increasing outputs, and that includes markets.
All right, I want to cover one other topic because today is the deadline for the United States, Canada, and Mexico to review and recommit to the North American trade deal, USMCA. This is, in Trump's first term, this was, I would argue, one of the best things that Jared Kushner was in charge of. Both Canada and Mexico already signed on. The president has yet to commit. How important is this agreement to North Dakota, and why do you think he's balking?
I cannot overstate, Stephanie, how significant the USMCA is to North Dakota. Almost 90% of our exports and imports are trade with Canada and Mexico. We are so dependent on this agreement being finalized. I can't begin to tell you, but the rest of the country, $1.5 trillion, clearly one of the largest deals. And my concern is that the president always thinks he's the best negotiator in the world. I think think the USTR is being very earnest in going forward, trying to get a deal. But, you know, Trump's going to step in, my prediction, at the last minute and say, I can do a better deal. And that's going to totally upset the relationships. And so this is tenuous at best. I spent a lot of time advocating for the USMCA, both when I was in office and when I left office. Is any trade agreement perfect? No. Are there things that we need to address, like China kind of sneaking in their products through those two countries? Sure, those things need to be addressed. But no one in this country should ever underestimate the value of that relationship that we have with Canada and Mexico. $1.5 trillion, 90% of what we do in North Dakota, exports and imports, depends on this agreement.
Senator Heitkamp, thank you for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.